this is Nathaniel Garrett Novosel, author of The Meaning of Life, and here we're to talk about why I write about the meaning of life. Now, I know what you might be thinking if I say, hey, I'm Nate Novosel, and I understand the meaning of life. But let me tell you about my story, and I'll tell you how I come to understand the meaning of life and my goal and motivation with the book that I ended up writing as a result. When I was a child growing up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, my father disappeared in the middle of the night. We didn't hear from him for 6 months. When we did, we found out that he was now living in Los Angeles and he wanted to see us. My parents agreed to a trip over the summer the next year for exactly 3 weeks and 2 days. When I got on the plane, it was the first time I'd ever been apart from my mother. I cried and cried, but nothing would prepare me for the return trip home. When I got back in my bed the first night in Pittsburgh, I began to feel a sinking emptiness come over me. I asked my mother if I could sleep in her bed so I wasn't alone, but it didn't help. When the trip was over and it was just me alone with my thoughts and without my father again, I felt a pain that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. The emptiness, the worthlessness, the pain, the helplessness, the hopelessness. In between mental repetitions of, I wish it didn't exist, that was the first time I recall asking, what does it all mean? Why are we here if we're going to just suffer like this? Now, many people have pondered the meaning of life in the worst moment of their lives, but there's a wrinkle to this story. My brain thinks more like a computer than a human. Later in life, I'd find out that I had the symptoms that would qualify as being highly functional on the autism spectrum, but I didn't know that at the time. At the time, a very dispassionate voice in my head is coldly analyzing my emotional response and saying, interesting, why do you feel this way? Your father's in California, you're in Pennsylvania. That's how it is. Why is this affecting you in this way? Followed by, that's a fascinating question about the meaning of life. Why are we here? I wonder if you can figure that out. I'm about 6 years old at the time, but that's how it all started. So, from then on, for over 20 years, I'd studied everything I could get my hands on in terms of content on philosophy, psychology, and human behavior. My curiosity was heightened by my then undiagnosed autism spectrum disorder, as I couldn't seem to make friends or have normal interest in large social interactions. I learned so much that when I went to college and minored in psychology, I passed all my tests pretty easily because I knew most of it already. I'd also studied the history of emerging trends in philosophy and classical arguments from religious texts to The Secret, trying to figure out why there were so many different interpretations of our reality and our existence. Now, out of college, I secured a career in research advisory for senior executives at the world's largest and most successful organizations. There, I learned how to dissect what makes the best practice work and how the most successful organizations solve the biggest challenges by looking at the challenge and the solution differently than everyone else did. It was by far the best training I had on how to think, and it was perfectly in line with my passion for understanding how things work and trying to optimize them. So I applied those teachings to my life and became very successful in all measurements. I owned a home and a car. I had a wife and a good job. After attaining everything I was told to want, I ran for the first time ever into asking myself what I really wanted and became surprised by the answer. I said to myself, studied for years how the world works, and I began noticing a lot of patterns and a lot of fallacies in what recommendations people provide for how to live a meaningful, successful life. Amazingly, I found that there are several core components backed by science that if you knew how to leverage them and then you also avoided those fallacies I mentioned, you could find your meaning in life. I think I finally know enough to be able to explain it to someone else in a way that would help them find meaning in their lives. I could write the best book ever on finding meaning. And I was explaining this to my mentor at the time, and he just said, do it. And strangely, this never happened before where I explained an idea I had in detail with my usual vigor, and someone was just unequivocally supportive and asking me why I wasn't already doing it. And so shortly after that moment, an entire book structure flooded in my brain. So those concepts just started popping out, like growth and experience and desire and belief, and ethics and emotions and support and choice. And so in just a few days, I had an entire outline on paper with the seven core components at the time, defining meaning. Now, I'd written a book outline before, but this was different. My last book idea is too much of criticisms of other people's approaches and other philosophies and why they don't work, and why how the world works doesn't necessarily align with them very well. But I was an advisor for executives for so long, and I kept telling them this phrase over and over again. I said, "Be the better option." And at the time, I was referring to executives trying to stop people from behaving in ways they didn't like. And I said, well, the only reason why they're doing that is because they don't have a better option. So if you give them a better option, they're going to pick yours instead of the other ones. And so they took that advice and succeeded from it. Here I was having a book outline in the past that was really just a series of criticisms. But people don't necessarily want to run away from things per se. I know fear drives a lot of people, but it's really about going towards something, being for something. And so, I was asking to myself, if you're going to only be preaching to the choir, if you criticize or try to cut down, other philosophies or other belief systems, then, you're not going to change anyone's mind by telling people that they're wrong. And then the people who agree with you are just going to be like, yeah, that guy's right. And do I really care about just making people feel good about what they already believe and putting down people who disagree with me? And obviously that's just wrong. There are plenty of people out there who do that. And so I decided pretty quickly not to do that. And instead I pursued this idea of identifying these, at the time, 7 drivers of meaning in life. And this updated mindset that I identified finally was in perfect alignment with the new outline that I had just formulated, where I identified these drivers. And so while that outline took just under 7 days, the rest of the book would take just under 7 years. So I started around February of 2013, something around there. It's the first email I remember sending to my mentor saying, hey, I have this list of ideas. But I'm sure it could have been earlier as well. But then I just published it, of course, in January of 2020. So 7 years. So I rewrote the entire book about 4 times or so, trying to improve the narrative and eliminate anything that deviated from the message I wanted to tell about how life works. And amazingly, the initial outline was mainly intact, actually. It was just I kept rewriting the essay portion, explaining each concept over and over again to make sure I got everything I wanted to communicate, because you know how people can misinterpret what you're saying. Now, I mentioned the 7 a couple of times, but there are actually 8 now. And what happened was I did run my draft by people, asked them if anything was missing. And one person said, where's choice? People always have a choice, and I think that's important. And I tried to explain how choice was incorporated into the other items, but my argument was pretty bad. So I was thinking about it, and they were right. So I had an 8th chapter, and that really rounded out the book, because what you want people to do in these types of books is to take action and behave differently as a result. So having choice round out the final chapter to help people take action was really important. And after thinking about it, it's so important that after everything I just talked about for this other 7 items, that the 8th one, that you ultimately have to realize that you have a choice, because choice is the difference between feeling agency and self-direction and self-determination, and just being a victim to circumstance or whatever life throws at you. So absolutely a critical part of meaning. And so I'm so glad I pressure tested that, because otherwise it would have felt like I missed that piece. So the journey to editing was long and arduous. I questioned whether I could really do this topic justice. I was imagining people saying, "Oh, you're an idiot," and stuff like that. And I guess everybody has that. I mean, if you're going to try to change the world with a new way of looking at things, it's completely different. But then at the same time, trying to unify all philosophies, because religions and philosophies and even atheistic beliefs, where they're trying to come up with universal ethics and things like that, this system actually unifies every philosophy ever made, because it actually is the fundamental 8 concepts that underlie them all. But I also wondered. A fun part is I wondered whether writers of religious texts would have written them differently if they had known how many passages were going to be potentially misinterpreted and leading to bloodshed and all this other stuff. Like, would they really have approved of a lot of that? So a lot of that went through my mind, and I usually try to make jokes and things when I talk and explain things, but I tried to eliminate stories that weren't literal. I tried to eliminate things like allegories and things like that. I know they make people enjoy reading more, but they're so open to misinterpretation. I always joke that if you say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, what you mean is that a diet full of fruits and vegetables can lead to healthier lifestyle and reduce risk of illness. But someone might misinterpret that and believe that apples physically repel doctors, and that if they have them, it's like garlic and vampires or something. And while that's a silly example, can you imagine how many things that people said in history that were grossly misinterpreted or taken out of context? So I thought about that. I made so many edits. Of course, as I published the book and saw some of the reviews come in, and immediately found that no matter what you do, people are going to misinterpret it. I had a couple of folks review it who said that I said something I didn't say, and then took it as a straw man and said, "See how this is all wrong?" And it's like, you can't win. That's not what I meant, and many times it's not what I said. But you're going to say I said that, so you can criticize. A lot of people didn't even read it; they were just trying to knock it down. So. That's going to happen, but I tried my best to make it literal and exact and precise, and also welcoming. Again, not trying to cut anything down unless I had to critique something. My favorite critique being the fact that it seems like philosophies require you to have an agreement on 4 things: the cause of life, like what caused life to be, the goal of life, ethics, and then like how life works. And it just seems kind of weird that you want to combine all of those 4 things together. Like, you have to believe one, you have to believe them all. I jokingly call that the God exists, so therefore you can't eat meat on Fridays during Lent. Obviously, there's a lot behind those 2 things, but a lot of people actually don't know what they are, and they just know, well, I believe this, so therefore I have to act in this way. And to me, that's pretty dangerous in terms of, again, if you misinterpret something and then you apply something in a certain way, are you really gonna get what you're trying to get? So. But I tried my best, and after all of that, on January 1st, 2020, I launched the book, and I did show it to some folks beforehand, and I just appreciate the support I got in terms of just explaining some of these ideas, and like, wow, this is new, this is fresh, this is different. No one's ever kind of put it in this way before, and this is it. This is the thing, and that's what I was hoping for when I publish it and have people read it. They're gonna go, oh wow, like this is real. This isn't take this on faith. This is pure science, but it also aligns with religions and other philosophies, and it doesn't knock any of them down. So you don't have to believe in this or that. You can believe in this and that, and use the 8 drivers of meaning in your life to actually understand what it is that they're trying to convey in these religions, and what exactly do you need to do. So it can actually give you a greater sense of spirituality if that's your belief system. But here, from now on, it's all about you. This is where my journey hopefully intersects with yours. If you're lost, depressed, curious, this book is for you. I put my heart, my soul, 30 years of research and 7 years of writing so that you can have a single comprehensive guide to understanding how life works and how meaning is found. Obviously, I wrote the book, so I like it, but I really do think it's the best book ever written on meaning and how to find it in a very systematic way. I made sure I didn't have biases in there saying, hey, you have to behave the way I think so. I clearly state that several times, that I'm not here to tell you what to believe or what to think. I'm just explaining what the science says about how people find meaning in their lives. And so hopefully you'll be amazed at how simple the answers are, the very simple one-word concepts with the very short one-sentence definitions. For someone as verbose as me, that's some sort of miracle. But then I give the complex explanations. It is a 360-page book, including an 80-page a chapter on ethics. Sorry about that in advance, but it was necessary. I said what I wanted to say. Ethics are very complex. I shouldn't, cut it short and not do it justice, especially given ethics, the fights over ethics for thousands of years and even today. That I didn't want that to really be a problem where I didn't cover everything I wanted to cover. So. That's the full book and encompassing all of those insights. But again, most importantly, you do not have to follow my rules for living. These are not rules for life, although I know that's popular and very good advice given by a lot of people for rules for life. But I intentionally did not write a book giving you rules to follow for life. I instead explain the concepts that underlie meaning, and you can understand and master those and use them to learn how to live a life full of meaning by your definition and how you feel you need to live it to feel meaning and fulfillment. And so these core components can help you find that meaning, and then gives you an approach to put them all together to find your purpose in life. Now, if you might ask, well, what was my purpose in life? Well, the first half, since I was 6, and I was thinking about, hey, what's the meaning of life, was to understand that. And I read hundreds, if not thousands, of texts and different approaches and different religious texts and philosophy texts to understand the meaning of life. And I did it, and I wrote the book, and I hopefully can give you some insight around how to find more meaning and fulfillment in your life. But now I got another purpose, and you'll see why in the book, how your purpose can change and evolve over time. If growth is the point, then obviously your purpose can grow and change. But this is my big one, helping you find your meaning. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I published it and put it out there. That's why I'm recording this vlog here. And I'm following my mantra, be the better option. And again, in my opinion, I do truly believe it's the best option for anyone looking for answers and not getting caught by someone else's, cult of personality or, their belief system that you have to subscribe to. And then only then can you be happy and fulfilled as if you follow the same path that these other people or this other person followed. And I don't believe in that. So I tell you how to think about life, how to analyze it. I don't tell you how to live it. It's my offer to you, and I hope you take it, and I hope you find purpose in life. Thank you so much.